Today I'm going to channel, and the channel is called You Are Not the Darkness. Of course I'm going to channel. That's why you're here. That's why we're going. So, in today's channel, just when I was meditating, I got this: You are not the darkness. So, I'm gonna go with that, and that will be the topic for today. You are not the darkness. I won't expand more than that because it's not my question. It's just something that I was inspired during the meditation. So let's see what's there. Okay, here we go. Greetings and thank you for accepting our suggestion for today's channel. You are not the darkness. So let us begin by defining what you are in terms which are relevant to this concept of darkness. You are an individuation of the One, and the One, the everything, is the light. Being incarnated from the light, because you are an individuation of the light, which follows from this concept that you are an individuation of the One, and the One is light. Therefore, when you are incarnated into the life cycle, you are incarnated from the light. You are a being of light, having a temporary physical experience. The darkness is anything which is not the light. So, it is an energetic state. Physicality is neutral. So the physical experience, the tangibility of the physical experience is a form of neutrality. And you, by intention, are a being of light occupying a physical vehicle which is neutral. However, in existence there is balance between light and dark. The true essence of consciousness is light. However, light has a shadow, and that shadow is the darkness. It is an energetic state which is not of the light. And for the physical matrix to be maintained, there is a requirement that the darkness provides balance to the light. The polarity is, in a sense, the infrastructure of the 3D matrix. without the darkness, the matrix would collapse. So, the yin and the yang. This is the state of balance. And the journey through life is to be aware of the darkness, be aware of the shadow, of the light that you are, without being expressive of the darkness. So it is an understanding in the balance being that there is a potential for darkness. Yet, in the balance being, the darkness is not expressed, but it is understood. When darkness is not understood, is when darkness is carried. There is the capacity to understand darkness in a way which makes it harnessable as a power. However, this is an understanding of darkness which is confined to the illusion. From the perspective of the true you, of the light being that you are. If you, in the physical experience, are harnessing darkness and using darkness as a form of power through an understanding as the physical being within the illusory paradigm, then this is counter to the intent of your life cycle from the perspective of the light being you are in a state of perfection before birth into the life that you live. So, while somebody can be a master of the illusion and use darkness to advance themselves through manipulation, misrepresentation, violence, and so on. This is still a manifestation of a lack of understanding. A lack of understanding when compared to the true light being you are. And from that perspective of your non-physicality, where you exist purely as a light being in perfection. You are, as we have said, a being of light. And the journey through your life, the intent for which you have come here, is to become fully awakened to your light in the physical experience. To be a being of light, having a physical experience, such that you are like the lucid dreamer. You are no longer carrying any darkness. Which is to say, you are fully expressive of the light which you are. while in the 3D matrix. So, within the parameters of the matrix and the characteristics and limitations of this particular matrix, your goal is to be the enlightened being, the being of light, having the physical experience. And this implies that you are a being, a physical being, that expresses light only, and that carries no shadow. There is understanding of the shadow, but the understanding of the shadow is what allows the shadow to be released, so that the shadow is not part of the self-paradigm, the self-definition, the self-concept. It is understood that darkness can be a part of it, but in this enlightened state, it would only be a part of it by choice, rather than by misunderstanding, by lack of awareness. So, individuals mostly are a blending of the light and the darkness, of the light that they are and the darkness which they carry, believing it is themselves, believing it is an aspect of themselves. So, let us give an example. If you are a being of light, having a physical experience, then the manifestation of that would be, as the enlightened being, would be that your vibratory quality is entirely within the spectrum of the light. Now, we don't mean the physical spectrum of the electromagnetic radiation of light in your physical paradigm, but we speak of light as in the vibratory quality of the One, because you are an individuation of the One. And so the One in the human vernacular of emotion is love and its derivatives: gratitude, peace, happiness, joy, bliss, love. This is the vibratory spectrum of the true you. It is the rainbow that you are. The rainbow of the light, which is the One. So any emotional state that you hold, any vibratory quality within self, which is not within this rainbow spectrum of the One, is darkness. It is a vibratory quality which is not reflective of who you are. It is misconceptualization of self. It is a belief that you are something which you are not. So, if you have fears about anything, this is a misconceptualization of self. Fear is an emotional quality. It's a vibratory expression which is not within the spectrum of the light. It's not within the rainbow of the one. So, it is not truly you. But, through misconceptualization, there is the belief that it is you. If you have unpleasant feelings towards another being, you hate them, for example, this emotional state, this vibratory quality, is not within the rainbow of the one. And so again, this is darkness that you carry with the belief that it is you. However, it is not. You are not the darkness. It is the shadow. So, if you have a sense of immortal invulnerability, because this is the truth about who you are. You are an infinite, invulnerable, immortal individuation of the One. In the true sense of who you are, you cannot be harmed in any way. You are an invulnerable being. Within this paradigm that you are experiencing now, this physical paradigm, you are not the physical vehicle. This experience is the illusion, the non-physicality, the energetic, the expression of the light, which you are in perfection, in non-physicality. That is reality. This is illusion. Just as the dream that you have during your sleep is the illusion. And just as you cannot be harmed in the dream, then you cannot be harmed in this experience. Yes, there can be emotional harm, there can be physical harm, but that harm is occurring to the vehicle, which is part of the illusion. It isn't you. When the physical vehicle eventually is no more, whether it is through death through old age, death through disease, or sudden death through an accident, regardless of how the death occurs, you continue the true essence of who you are, the individuation of the light, the spectrum, rainbow of the One. You continue on, unharmed. So, from this expanded awareness of self, there is no place for fear. There is a place for caution, because if you wish to utilize the physical experience to expand into the awareness of these things we are discussing, then it is useful to have caution to maintain the integrity of the physical vehicle, of this asset, this collection of assets which you have to allow you to be the non-physical energetic having the physical experience, to integrate into physicality so that you can have these experiences. So caution has a place. But if you are the infinite, invulnerable, immortal, then from that context, fear makes no sense. And this is why fear is the shadow of what you truly are. Fear is the clarity of what you truly are. And so when you carry fear, then you are believing that you are the shadow, that you are the darkness. And so you have this situation where you are the blended being. You are the being which is awakened to many aspects of the true you as the light being, the rainbow of the one. However, you still have a belief in the shadow, in some ways, identifying the darkness as self. But you are not. And the same as this concept of hate. You are a being of divine love. The light, the love, these are synonymous. And so, if you hold feelings which are hateful, or some derivative of that quality, then this is not an expression of the rainbow of the one which you are. It is not an expression of the light and love which you are. Is it an expression of the polaric opposite of what you are? It is an expression of the shadow. And so, as you go through your journey across time and incarnations, your intent is to become a being entirely expressive of the light in the physical experience. And this will have occurred when you completely understand the darkness. And having this understanding, you release it. You release the shadow, revealing the true you underneath. No longer do you carry misconceptualization of self. You understand the shadow. You understand that you're not the fear. You understand that you're not the hate. You understand that you're not the despair, the depression. And so more and more and more and more and more, the shadow is understood and the darkness is released. Over human history, this has been a slow, ongoing process. The death and rebirth cycle of incarnation, choosing to be born back into a scenario which is vibratorily conducive to you releasing yet more of the darkness through the understanding of the shadow, so that you increasingly, in the physical experience, become metaphorical, emblematic of the perfection you are in non-physicality. In non-physicality, you exist entirely as the light. In non-physicality, there is no illusion. And so without illusion, there is no bandwidth, so to say, for darkness. There is no darkness in non-physicality. So there is no capacity for shadow there. Shadow is inherent to the illusion, to physicality. And this incarnation cycle that you follow, when you choose the conditions into which you are reborn, you choose to be reborn into conditions which will provide this opportunity for you to further understand the shadow. And then in understanding the shadow, release the darkness that you hold. Release the misconceptualization of self, the misunderstanding of self. And so the deficit in your expression of the light, which you have expressed as through your lifetimes, is becoming increasingly more reflective of the perfect being you are in non-physicality, where there is nothing but light. This is the journey. So, the important concept here is that you are not the darkness. You are the light, not its shadow. And so, with this understanding, you can take a personal inventory of your vibratory quality in regards to the many aspects of your life. And where you find that you have a vibratory quality which is not love and its derivatives, if there is anything in your life that when you think about it and you be aware of the emotions which are present when you are contemplating this aspect of your life, if the emotions you feel are anything other than love and its derivatives, then you are still misunderstanding self in this regard. And you believe that you are the shadow in some regard, and so your belief in the shadow means that your self-identity is integrated into that shadow, integrated into the darkness. You are carrying some darkness. Is it fear? Is it hate? Is it depression? Is it lack? So this process over human history has been a slow and steady awakening from each incarnation to the next into more of the light that you are, holding less of the shadow, less of the darkness, releasing it through understanding that I am not a being of intense fear. I am not a being of intense hate. I am not a being of intense despair. And so, more and more and more, the shadow is seen for what it is, and subsequently, the darkness is released. But right now is a very, very special moment in the history of the solar system being, and the earth being, and the humanity being, and you. Because all of these beings we just described, these are all you. You are an aspect of all of these. Because there is this concept of nested consciousness. So your consciousness is nested in the humanity being. The humanity being is the group being, which is now in the process of awakening. As humanity comes together in a state of unbreakable cohesiveness, and will begin to be understood as a single being, the humanity being, all of you, unified together. This is an artifact of the ascension. The ascension will be the awakening of the fifth dimensional being, realizing that it is a single being of the many parts, and that realization will be your realization, because you are an aspect of this being. And when you are awakened to that, in the ascended state as fifth dimensional, the realization of the fifth dimensional being will be your realization, as it will be everybody's. realization who is integrated into this ascension event. And the humanity being is the earth being. It is nested in the earth being, and the earth being is nested in the solar system being. And what is unique at this time, there is taking place an ascension, an awakening, which has been compressed into a very short time, and all of these beings, this chain, this nested concept of self, where you are the being and yet the larger being, yet the larger being, yet the larger being. You are all these beings. There is an awakening which is occurring across all of these perspectives of who you are simultaneously. But not as the slow and steady nature that it has been in the past, but instead now very rapid, very compressed. So, what this has done is that it has added extra facility to you and your ability, or to you and the texture of the matrix. The matrix itself, the 3D matrix that you are in, has been mostly expanded into by the Earth human. And the Earth human now is becoming more and more fifth dimensional. And as you become more fifth dimensional, meaning that you have an increasing awareness of self, which isn't the mind, the body, the personality. You are realizing that you are something infinite, that you have an infinite extra dimensionality, which is not defined by this finite physical vehicle that you see in the mirror. So you are already ascending into a fifth dimensional state, as are most humans on this planet at this time. And simultaneously, the Earth is also ascending into a higher dimensional state. And the solar system being is also shifting to a higher dimensional state, which allows the ascended earth being to ascend, which allows the humanity being to awaken, you to ascend, and so on. Therefore, the quality of the matrix that you're in, it is now becoming a blended experience where you are partially 3D, partially 5D. And this blending has increased the capacity and function of your experience. There is now the capacity to do what hasn't been possible for humans in the past. And the point of this lead-up is, previously, for humans to become less identified with the shadow, to release the darkness, was a very slow process, and something that would occur mostly passively. And there wasn't the capacity to go, okay, I've had enough, shadow no more, I purge the darkness. This wasn't possible. However, now that there is this acceleration, and there is this blending of the dimensional states, where you are now both 3D and 5D in your experience, and you are an aspect of an organism which is also ascending, which is an aspect of an organism, which is also in a ascended state. So there is an exponential increase in your potential, and that includes your ability to purge the darkness, to de-identify with the shadow and realize that your identity with the shadow, you're believing that you are an aspect, that part of you is the shadow, that you are this vibratory spectrum that is outside of the spectrum of the love of the One. It's outside the rainbow of the One, which you are. You are contained within the rainbow of the One from a vibratory perspective. And you're realizing now that all of this part of you, part of who you believe you are, which is outside of this rainbow of the One, it is a part of a spectrum, which is the shadow. It is the polar opposite. It is the pole, which exists to make the illusion possible. It is the necessary energy to create the balance, the yin and the yang. You're realizing that this is part of the infrastructure of the matrix, but it is not you. It is the shadow, which is necessary to make it possible for the light to be in the physical experience. And so now there is this possibility where you can disidentify with the shadow and release the darkness in an amount, in a degree, with a effectiveness which previously would have taken many life cycles, many incarnations to achieve. Now you can achieve it in a much compressed time. So, utilize this new functionality. The earth, in its ascension, is including you. And the sun, in its ascension, is including the earth. Altogether, there is this energetic nourishment conducive to ascension. The earth's ascension will not be complete until humanity ascends, because you are the earth being. You are an aspect of the earth being. You are not separate from the earth being. You are not some type of foreign virus, infection, invader walking on the earth's surface that he wishes wasn't there. The earth being perceives itself when it sees you. You are the earth having an experience of itself through the unique perspective which is you. So its ascension from its perspective of self includes your ascension, because from its perspective you are it. So, all of these coincidence has created the energetic environment where you can, in a very effective way, make the decision, make the declaration: I am not the darkness. I am the light. And so, I purge the darkness. I release the darkness. I let the darkness go, because I understand it is not me. It is an erroneous belief that I am the shadow, but I understand I am the light. This declaration, this demonstration of your understanding, both conceptually and also energetically, if it is practiced, if it is inspired by divine intent, can be the beginnings of a dramatic shift. And this shift to becoming more expressed as the rainbow of the One, without identification with the shadow, because the darkness has released, sets you up to be above the threshold when the ascension event occurs. And this is why the sun, the solar system being, which includes the sun and all of the planets, is providing an energetic quality into the entire solar system, which is conducive to realization, to elevated realization, to ascension in self-understanding, in vibratory quality. And so is the earth also, into its biosphere, releasing this same energy, because it wishes to elevate you in your expression, your energetic vibration, so that you become increasingly skewed to being expressive only within the rainbow of the One. Shadow's released. Shadow is no longer identified as self. Subsequently, darkness is released. And this elevation, this ascension, places you above the threshold. So when the ascension event occurs, you will be harvested like the wheat head cut from the stalk. And those that are not aware and continue to believe they are the shadow and feel they understand the darkness in a way which makes them powerful only in the physical experience, however, they shall be below the threshold. And so when the ascension event occurs, they shall not be harvested. However, they shall not be harmed in the true essence of who they are, because this is the dream, and they shall awaken from the dream, return to perfection in non-physical, as a being completely expressive of the light, without shadow, because there is no shadow in the non-physical state. And they will choose with intent to be born into an incarnation which will give them the opportunity to go through this process of understanding they are not the shadow, subsequently releasing the darkness, becoming more expressive of the light, until eventually they also shall ascend. However, what they will not have the opportunity to experience is this ascension event that is going to occur on planet Earth at this time. They will complete their ascension into a fifth dimensional state under different conditions, in a different paradigm. So, you are not the darkness. You are the light. And we have reached a place in this energetic transition where it is now possible for the Earth human to literally, through declaration, purge the darkness. And if you have a look at what is happening on your planet right now, it is clear that this is happening on a global scale. As people come together and realize more and more that they are beings of light, that they are polarized to the light, and therefore purge the darkness. And the darkness itself, and those that are the progenitors of the darkness on this planet, those who use the darkness as their source of power, they also are being instrumental in humanity's awakening to the light, polarizing to light. And so even though these people are the most evil that have existed in the history of your planet, it is with great love that when they were born into this experience, this physical life that they live now, that they have chosen to be born into this role, knowing that their descent into darkness is what will create the polarity so strong that it polarizes humanity to the light for the ascension event. So even those that are the most dark, the most evil, still deserve your love. This energetic change that is occurring on the planet right now is a bifurcation. It is a polarization to the light, which is matched also by a polarization to the dark. There are those humans who are going through an experience of awakening, which will be the pre-event to the ascension. And let us explain it this way. The darkness does not incarnate. The darkness is an aspect of the illusion. It is the shadow of the light. The light perpetuates itself through death and rebirth. So, it crosses the threshold into the non-physical, awaiting rebirth into another opportunity to expand into awareness that it is the light and not the shadow. The darkness, however, is part of the illusion, so the darkness has no place in the non-physical. It cannot cross that threshold. And so the darkness perpetuates itself through transmission, through infectious toxification of hosts, which then pass on the infection. And so darkness perpetuates itself eternally without any incarnation cycle. It continues by existing as an energy which is transmitted from host to host. So, those that are steeped in darkness, that wield darkness as a power on your planet, they understand that the more darkness there is in the human field, then those at the epicenter of the darkness will be intensified in their power. Their power will be more potent if they are within an planet of beings who all carry significant darkness. Then those at the epicenter who know how to wield darkness will be most powerful. So, they deliberately toxify the human earth field with darkness through infectious transmission. And they do this through the cultural pillars, through news media, through entertainment media, through education, through law, through government. They create conditions which are fearful, which are desperate, which create despondency, which create hatred. These conditions they deliberately manufacture by engineering the culture from the top down, such that there is a richness of darkness in each individual. Each individual are afraid of many things, hate many things, worried about many things. They have become steeped in belief they are the shadow. And this is the result of a deliberate engineering into society, such that each carries this darkness. But the awakening which is occurring now is this realization among the average man, woman, and child that there is a unified malevolence which is pitting itself against humanity. That there is a polaric epicenter, a pole of darkness, and therefore a pole of light. These magnetic poles, these opposing states, one of purely the light and one of purely the shadow. And throughout history, since this time when darkness became the predominant expression of those who have ruled over the earth experience, humans have been deliberately toxified with this, with the shadow, with the belief in the shadow. Fearful, despondent, hateful, and so on. And so this blending, where they are understood of themselves as the light, but also misunderstanding themselves as the shadow. Now this awakening is taking place, and humans are realizing that there is this unified malevolence pitting itself against humanity, using the cultural pillars to create the darkness, to infect each individual with the darkness, so they identify with the darkness. This realization that is occurring now. And individuals are saying to themselves and to those around them, it's not true what we're being told, so I'm not afraid anymore. It's not true what we're being told, so I don't hate those people anymore. It's not true what we're being told, so I'm no longer desperate and despondent about my experience. And with each of these awakening revelations, there is now the opportunity to release that darkness. That fear isn't mine. It has been placed in me through infectious transmission by those who receive benefit from me misidentifying myself with the shadow. And so on and so on. And so there is a very literal purging of the darkness for millions of people, soon to be billions of people, in the earth human experience. And this purging of the darkness, I am not the shadow, is the revelation that beneath you are the light. And so the subsequent polarization to the light, not wanting to be identified in any way with the darkness, and those people who have been under the guise of power and leadership, deliberately leading the flock astray, wishing to not be identified with them in any way. There is this rapid purging of the darkness as there is this de-identification with the shadow. shifting to the light. But shifting to the light is not so much a new belief that I am love, I am peace, I am joy, so on. It is the realization that you already are these things. That when the shadow is removed, it reveals beneath that you are the rainbow of the One. You are love and its derivatives. You are an expression of the light in the physical experience. And anything which is not within the spectrum, which is not the rainbow of the One, is not you. It is a misconceptualization. It is a belief that you are something which you are not, that you are the shadow, that you are the darkness. This explosion of transition, this rapid redefining of the human paradigm on your planet is only going to increasingly become more so. And as it becomes increasingly more so, then so shall increase the capacity to make a dramatic shift and transition, which in human history would have taken many incarnation cycles. It is now possible to do that literally in days, weeks, months. So utilize this new potential. Use it. It is being gifted to you by the solar system being, by the earth being, by the humanity being. It is with intent that you utilize this. Purge the darkness so you elevate your vibratory quality such that when the ascension event occurs, from a metaphysics perspective, the physics of it, you will be above the threshold and harvested into an ascended dimensional state, which will ensure a greater completion for the earth being, for the solar system being. So what are you focused on now in your life? Is your focus relevant to what is occurring? Are you still entirely concentrating on the illusion? Or are you also now using part of your gaze to be aware of what is happening in the extra dimensionality, in the non-physical, in the experience outside of the illusion? It is your choice. But be aware, you are here not to make money, not for physical conquest. You are here to be realized in the physical experience that you are the energetic. And at the end of this journey, across infinity, across dimensions, your ultimate goal is to be fully remembered of self as the One. So that you experience yourself as the One. And so in your state of self-experience, you will experience yourself literally as the One. You will be God. This is the ultimate destination that you head to. And for this to be continued in the most proficient and effectual, compressed way, your ascension is vital. Because if you do not ascend in this opportunity which is coming up on the horizon, you shall be re-immersed back into more incarnations of the 3D experience. You shall remain in the 3D matrix. And this ultimate purpose for which you exist will be stymied. Of course, never halted, because all consciousness in the end will arrive at that place. But the unique situation for the Earth human is to be living without awareness that this is why you're here. And so there is much waste in much misdirection in the use of the time and energy of beings, of Earth beings on this planet, because there is this non-awareness of the reason that you are here. So, the reason we linger on this point is because right now occurring in the cosmos is this incredibly exciting event. And one of the reasons it's incredibly exciting is because it is an unprecedented opportunity. It is an opportunity that trillions of other beings in other regions and ways of existing covet, would very much like to be a participant in. And yet, so many of the participants that are lucky enough to be inside the experience, and this experience we're talking about is the ascension, in which you are included, potentially, because you are a human, yet so many humans are completely unaware that they are at their fingertips this incredible opportunity, this amazing moment to be catapulted in an ascended state to a higher expression of an Earth being in such a compressed time that it is unprecedented. Having gone like this across time to now suddenly having the opportunity to go here and have this much elevation in vibratory quality, ascension, in a very short time. Which, if you miss it and you are recycled into a different 3D paradigm, this opportunity will become just a continuation of this very gradual increase, because that has been the organic model across existence. This, what is occurring now, is unprecedented. This opportunity to change the increase of the vibratory quality dramatically in a very short time, such that in your incarnation cycles that shall follow, you shall be at an ascended state which would organically take many tens of thousands of years to occur. This is something you do not want to miss out on. This is a very substantial moment and opportunity. So, live your life, of course. Have some focus on what is required for you to accomplish what it is that you're accomplishing in your human experience. But also, have some focus on what is occurring in a context which is more real than the illusion that you are living. Otherwise, you will have missed the reason that you have come here. Step 1. Purge the darkness. Acknowledge that you are the light, the rainbow of the One, and that the shadow is not you, and the darkness you hold is a belief in the shadow. It is a belief in the illusion. Become part of the bifurcation, which everyone will be, inevitably. It is impossible to not be swept up in the bifurcation. But when the bifurcation occurs and there is a polarization to the dark and a polarization to the light, if you continue to maintain your belief in the shadow, it will literally start to tear you apart, where you develop dark secrets, where you seem to have two versions of you. The you, which is light and love and people love, admire and respect. Then a part of you which is a deep, dark secret that you do not wish others to know this about you. Because the polarization is bifurcation. It is drawing the darkness to the dark pole. It is drawing the light to the light pole. And if you are still holding belief in the shadow, then this will begin to tear you asunder, such that you will now express in a very bifurcated way, where you will seem to be an illogical being. It doesn't make sense. How can this being that is so beautiful and loving and light have these traits which are so steeped in darkness? Because there is the descent and there is the elevation. If you do not wish to have your secrets, your darkness, descend deeper into a place that you do not want that aspect of yourself to go, then release it, purge it, let it go, so that you can fully, completely polarize to the light and assure your integration into the ascension and be fulfilling of the jewel, the gift of why you chose to be incarnated at this time. Thank you. We love you. So, so exciting. And we call on you to be mindful of the shadow, purge the darkness, polarize to the light, so that you shall ascend. We love you.